Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we are talking about a ship that I'm pretty surprised I haven't made a standalone video on just yet. I've referenced her in quite a few videos. She's been in quite a few top 5 list videos as well. We even talked about her a bit in Mainz's video last week. And that is the Tier 8 Premium German Heavy Cruiser, the Prinz Eugen. Now, the Prinz Eugen is a real still historical ship. This ship really existed in real life. She was one of the Admiral Hipper class of heavy cruisers that was ordered by the Kriegsmarine after a certain political group came to power in Germany in the 1930s. If you guys don't know, I currently have a community strike on my channel for including an angry plus sign in a video, about 3 or 4 years ago. And if I get another one, my channel is disabled for a couple of weeks. So I gotta be careful. But anyway, after said political group came to power in Germany, they promptly proceeded to throw the Treaty of Versailles out the window and started to rearm Germany, especially the Kriegsmarine. So the Hipper class was, well, quite a big cruiser when specifically the Prinz Eugen was fully loaded. She displaced over 19,050 tons, and she had quite the service life. After being ordered and delivered by the shipyards, one of her first and most prominent operations was Operation Rheinumbank, and this is what led to the battle between the Bismarck and the Hood, which we made a full cinematic video about that, which was released a few weeks ago. You should definitely go check that out if you haven't done so yet. Now, during Operation Rheinumbank, Prinz Eugen was detached from Bismarck, and she was meant to carry out the operation, which was aimed at sinking any merchant vessels that were making their way over to Britain. However, she had some engine troubles, so she had to return to occupied France to deal with those. Later on, she was anchored at Brest, where Gneisenau and Scharnhorst were all anchored. They were constantly targeted by Allied bombing. So, after eating a couple of bombs, the Prinz Eugen and the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau were then transferred to the Norwegian waters in the Channel Dash, so she was present for that as well. Later on, she went in to serve in the Baltic, mainly as an artillery platform, covering the retreating German military from the Soviet Union. She was then surrendered to the Royal Navy and then transferred to the U.S. Navy as a war prize, so she was briefly known as USS Prinz Eugen. She had not a very long, but a pretty glamorous life in the United States Navy, where she was towed to Bikini Atoll, where she participated in Operation Crossroads, which was a nuclear test at Bikini Atoll. Having survived getting nuked, Prinz Eugen was towed away, where she was, just left to rot, and she eventually capsized and sank in relatively shallow water, and you can actually go dive the wreck. You don't really even need scuba gear if you got a good breath hold. But yeah, that's where you can see the Prinz Eugen today if you're brave enough to dive a ship that's been nuked a couple of times. But anyway, the Prinz Eugen in game. This is a ship that's getting around 6 years old. She'll be 6 years old in 2 months. She was first introduced in September of 2016 in the game. So this is definitely one of the oldest premium ships that we have in the game currently. And wow, it's weird thinking that a digital item is this old. But anyway, today we're going to take a look at the Prinz Eugen in game. And if you're interested in picking her up, which I'm sure there's probably a fair few of you watching that already have this ship and can attest to how good this ship still is. But if you're thinking about picking her up, we are going to go over today and talk about how she performs in today's World of Warships. So let's go ahead and take a look at her. So, first off, this is, again, an Admiral Hipper, and we already have the Hipper as a Tier 8 tech line ship in the German tech tree. So, many of you are probably already familiar with the, let's say, squishiness of the Admiral Hipper. And again, same hull here on the Prinz Eugen. You have a 27mm bow, and you have a partial icebreaker bow that's 40mm. Her side plating is 27, along with her torpedo protection. Her stern is 27 as well. You have another partial icebreaker stern here with a 70 millimeter slat over the steering gears. Her stern deck is 27, mid deck is 27, and her bow deck is 27 as well. You take all that away and you see her citadel, which is just at the waterline, but she does have that turtleback citadel that the Germans are known for, with her armor belt of 80 millimeters. And there is some very strange geometry going on here with the Prinz Eugen's armor scheme that, just like the Hipper, because against the same hull, does lead to these ships eating some very odd citadels, and you can even see that in the footage you're watching in the background. There's many a hit that I take where I'm not really that steeply angled, where it's either an overpin or a bounce from something as large as a battleship caliber shell, and it bounces or it overpins. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. But yet when you're steeply angled, get hit in sometimes the same area and it's a citadel hit. It's strange, it's weird, it's been like that forever with the Hipper hull. So yeah, fun times here with that. But the Prinz Eugen does offer up a remedy for that the Hipper doesn't get. Also, talking about the gameplay you're seeing in the background, I had just a terrible morning trying to record some footage for this video. I played for about 3.5 hours, just the Prinz Eugen, and I had blowout matches, cyclone matches, matches where like 2 ships went to the flank that I spawned on, 2 enemy ships that is, and we sunk those 2 ships, and then before I could run to the other side of the map to try and get some other damage in, the match ended. Had that for 3.5 hours straight. It was infuriating. But we did have this match. This match is a very good match. It's not a super high damage match, but it's a good match to show you guys the strengths and the weaknesses of the Prinz Eugen. And you've probably already seen one of the big highlights of the ship already, which is, of course, her AP, which we're about to talk about. But even though it's not a very high damage game, it was a very good game. And it was a pretty decent and close game all the way through. I just wish that it wasn't a cyclone, so I could have actually done some more damage. But anyway, talking about her guns, which is her main feature. Well, let's talk about her hit pool first. 48,600 hit points and a 10% torpedo damage reduction. Pretty healthy tier 8 cruiser there. Now onto her guns. So, she has 8 203mm guns with a 13-second reload time, which is a longer reload time than the Hipper. They 180 and 18.8 seconds with the build that I have on her, and I'll throw that right back up on screen here so you guys can see that too. Maximum dispersion of 143 meters and a maximum range of 17.5 kilometers, which is actually darn good for a tier 8 cruiser. Now her HE does a maximum damage of 2500, has a 14% chance of causing a fire on the target. It can pin 51mm of armor, and the HE comes out the tubes at 925 meters a second. Her AP does a maximum damage of 6,195, and also comes out the tubes at 925 meters a second. So, the HE is the pretty lethargic German HE. It doesn't, again, it's pretty low alpha here, and that can be frustrating because it is a tier 8 ship, and it does have 8-inch guns, and it does get the German pins, so, you can pin 51mm with these guns without IFHE. And that's very nice, but then, you run to matches where you get to tier 10, and, back in the day when 51mm was, and it still is a really nice threshold to have, of course, but there's so many more ships at higher tier that have just, of course, bonkers armor layouts. And, of course, we have super ships now, too. So now you have a ship with pretty lethargic HE alpha, with not the best reload time on 203s, but, it's still pretty decent, with only a 14% fire chance per shell with 8 shells every 13 seconds. So, needless to say, the ship's HE performance isn't great at all. It's not terabad, but compared to a lot of the other HE spammers that we have, and we have a lot of HE spammers now at tier 8 up, it's, of course, not anywhere near that level. And it's not an HE ship, it's an AP ship, and that's what makes up for that. This AP is amazing. This is the good old German AP. 925 meters a second shell velocity on these AP shells. You get German AP, the German AP pins, that will absolutely slap and kick the living crap out of anything that makes the mistake of showing this ship broadsides. Especially other cruisers. This cruiser eats other cruisers alive with this AP, as I'm sure you saw at the beginning of this match. If you make the mistake of showing this ship any amount of side in a cruiser, you're going to get chunked, and you're probably going to get citadeled too, especially if it's the same tier or lower cruiser. Because keep in mind, the ship can see tier 6 ships. I did it. I saw constant tier 10 games when I was playing this ship, but this can see tier 6 ships with that AP. And the AP is also so good too that if a battleship is showing you broadside from relatively close range, like 13, 14 kilometers in, go ahead, load the AP. Aim for the upper belt on them, or aim for their bow, their stern. You'll chunk them quite easily for probably 10k per salvo. And if you are getting exceptionally close in too, just of course blast their main belt too, and you'll chunk them pretty well when getting it, in at extreme close range, like 5 kilometers under. But yes, the AP on the ship is fantastic. And the HE, even though it doesn't do that much damage, is still coming out 925 meters a second, just like the AP. So when you do run into DDs, of course keep HE loaded, because you just want to overpin them with the AP. And it's not that hard to shoot DDs with this ship. Now, not quite as easy as the Mainz with its 12 guns, but with 8 guns here, with 925 meters a second velocities, it's pretty easy to deal with DDs in this thing. So moving on down to its torpedoes. This ship gets 4x3 of the 533mm torps, so you get 2 launchers per side with 3 torps per tube. These are the torpedoes, I believe, from the Gneisenau now. 6 kilometer range, 13,700 maximum torpedo damage, spotted from 1.3 kilometers, and they travel at 64 knots. So standard German torpedoes there. And these torpedoes, again, excellent to have in a brawling situation when you need an ace up your sleeve. They can definitely be used for that, or in a close-in kiting situation like you guys saw me here do here probably in the background, or will see me do here in the background in a couple of minutes. But again, excellent German torpedoes, always welcomed. This ship does have depth charges on her. She doesn't get the ASW aircraft, so that's today, because you want that aircraft. You don't want the depth charge, because the submarines are normally sitting at like 10 kilometers away from you, and you can't do anything to them when they're doing that. So yeah, sad. AA, she has an A rating of 73. Now, back in the day, she was actually one of the best AA boats in the game. Today, she still is one of the better AA ships. It's not a plane blender by any stretch of the imagination, but in my 3.5 hours of playing this ship today, she's still got quite a bit of AA power. She gets 2x2 of the dual-mounted 20mm guns. She gets 6 of the quad-mounted 20mm flak 35s. She gets 18 of the single-mounted flak 28s, and she has 6 of the dual-mounted 105s that are also secondaries. Is this a secondary cruiser? No, not like you can build into it anyway, but back in the day you could build into the secondaries on the Prinz Eugen and the other cruisers, but unfortunately Wargaming has removed that ability today. But even then, it's definitely not a secondary cruiser. Maneuverability, she has a maximum speed of 32 knots with the flag, a 770 meter turning circle radius, and an 8.7 second rotor shift time with the rudder mod equipped. Concealment, she has a concealment range of 11.7 kilometers with the commander skill and the module. Alright, for her consumables, she gets a heal. And that's the biggest pickup that this ship has over the Hipper. You get a heal. So that way, when you do get vibe checked by an enemy battleship or whatever, and you lose a third or 2/3 of your HP, you can recover that and stay in the fight. Now, that heal does also allow you to play this ship a little bit more aggressively to back then and even still today, because again, you have that heal to back you up, and the armor scheme is good and will protect you against most cruisers if you stay properly angled. And battleships, it's a bit of a toss-up. Sometimes they'll find that right part of your ship to shoot, like that 70mm plate over your steering gears and citadel you for most of your health, or sometimes they'll bounce every shell off the hull. I've seen that happen. Again, you guys that have been around for some time know it's the Hipper hull. It's a bit trolly at times. So in addition to the hill, you also get fighter. You don't get spotter. You get your choice of hydro or DFAA. Standard hydro, 6 kilometer range. Lasts for 120 seconds, reloads 114 seconds, and you get the damage con. It's active for 5 seconds and comes off cooldown in 57 seconds. So, the Prinz Eugen here as you guys see, has pretty much every German tool bolted to the deck, including the good German HE with the HE pins, but again the lethargic HE Alpha, the Torpedoes, the Hydro. You can have DFAA if you want it instead of Hydro. I prefer Hydro. The Fighter. It's just, again, everything that makes the German line great bolted onto one ship. And you get a really punchy set of 8-inch guns out of the ship that, again, will just make any other cruiser cry if they slip up and show you broadside. Even tier 9 and 10 cruisers, that's how good these guns are. So is the Prinz Eugen worth picking up today? In my opinion, absolutely so. It's a wonderful German cruiser commander trainer, or again, just a wonderful German commander trainer in general, because of the way the commander rework is today. You don't have to, train them for one stat. You just gotta train them all the way up, and you can, of course, set whatever. And of course, too, if you have Lucians, this is again a wonderful ship to fit Lucians on. Now, it's a bit harder to pop that main battery reload booster skill. I did it 4 times in my 3.5 hour play session. That's mainly limited by how long is the match going to last, because in something like the mines with the 6-second reload time with the 12 guns, that's you'll get that in the first couple of minutes in the mines. But in the Prinz Eugen, because it does only have 8 guns, it does have a 13-second reload time. That's going to take a little while longer to pop, but of course when you do pop it, it's more DPM, and it helps compensate for being a nerfed hipper load time on the same 203mm guns. But yes, I would still definitely run Lucians on this ship. I mean, it's a premium ship. It doesn't cost you anything to move them around from this ship to another ship. So she's a wonderful German premium. She's held up remarkably well for a 6-year-old premium, guys. Think about that. We have ships that have been released 2 or 3 months ago that have been power crept or already not as good as they once were. This is a 6-year-old ship that still holds up today. It's amazing how some of these older premiums are designed like this. But anyway, guys, that's my 2 cents on the Prinz Eugen. Let me know what you guys think about her in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're already to 40,000 subscribers, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Again, hope you guys have a wonderful week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.